It's working. Give everybody a few more minutes to get here before we start talking about the Belmont. If you're just tuning in, I'm giving everybody a few more minutes to get here before we start getting on to the Belmont Stakes Day undercard and the big race itself. For those of y'all that are here now, I'll go ahead and show y'all some of the progress that's been coming along with the website. It should be up and running the next 2 to 3 weeks. I still got some more work I got to do in some areas. And here's the home page of the website. I still got to change the wording in here, but this is going to be the link to the forum where everybody can talk about different things. Like if you want to talk about the Belmont, you can go in there and start a whole thread about Belmont. If you want to talk about different handicapping tips, just whatever you want, this will be the section for that. And then this is going to be the blog where I post different, my analysis on races. I have some different people that I've got in touch with. It's going to be posted on the blog also, so that should be good for everybody. And then the forum, I got to change all this. This is just kind of a placeholder right now, so I can get in here and change everything, but you kind of get the point. This will be like a general discussion. You can just create different topics and go with it. So I just wanted to show y'all some of the progress that's been coming along with that. But anyways, we'll go and get on into the Belmont Stakes Day. And we'll start with the third race. It's the Goer Stakes. You got Still Dreaming by H-Gram Motion. He had broke his maiden at Laurel Park in January, and then he ran in the Sam F. Davis. He was an interesting pick for that race. I didn't personally like him, but I did respect him. But he didn't fire in that race, and then he lost to Always Mining in the private term stakes. And then he came back and won an optional claiming race at Laurel Park by a nose. I still think he's got to improve a little bit to be a factor in this race, so I couldn't go with him in the Easy Goer. Dreammaker, trained by Mark Casse. I was at the fairgrounds when he won his race by 8.5 lengths. I had a little bit of hope for him. I thought he could potentially do something, but he hasn't done hardly anything since. But it's kind of odd because the horse works out really good in the morning time. He fires nothing but bullet workouts. Uh, 4 furlongs and 48.1, the fastest is 7. 4 furlongs and 47.3, the fastest is 79. 4 furlongs and 46, the fastest is 48. And if you look at Mark Cassie's top horses over the years, they usually all have bullet workout time, so he kind of fits the mold. He should be good, but he just hasn't. Maybe there's something mental wrong with him. I don't know. But I still think he's going to have to improve to win this race. Then Grump's Little Tots. He's trained by Jason Service, and it's kind of rare that you see a 12-1 morning line on a Jason Service horse. But he hasn't really done much. He broke his maiden at Aqueduct, and then he ran in the Wood Memorial. Didn't do any kind of running at all. Finished 23 lengths off. So I don't think he's going to do anything. And Outshine, Sketchy the horse guy. How's it going? But Outshine, I was really disappointed in his Tampa Bay Derby effort because he just had the perfect trip. He sat right off of that speed duel, and if there was a race that he should have took it and won, that was going to be it. And he didn't. He let Tassus and Win almost patch him in the stretch. So I didn't like that effort, and I didn't like him going to the Wood Memorial, and he didn't do any running there either. So I'm not going to pick him. Actually, we'll go back and watch that race. Yes, the Met Mile is absolutely loaded this year. I think that's probably the best race on the card in terms of best bet race and the best, probably the most talented horses are in that race. I think of the day as far as being a loaded field. But you had Outshine. He's a 6 horse right here, and you got Zenden and Well Defined. They're just in the speed duel, and Outshine should be in the perfect trip. He's sitting just off of it, and he's not going to do much. He's going to make that little run around the far turn, but he shouldn't have let them other horses pass him like that if he had any kind of real talent. And we'll move on up towards the far turn, but see, he's in the midst of his run right now. And for a brief second after he comes after the top of the stretch, it looks like he might actually win the race. But Tassus just going to come right at the rail and pass him. Then Win had to come really wide. And I think if he didn't have such a wide trip, that Win could have got second in that race. So I'm not going to pick Outshine in the Easy Goer. And Majid, he could be an interesting horse to look at, but he's only won his race by a length and 3/4. I'll try to pull up a couple of his races. And this is probably going to be my pick, Always Mining. I know it's a favorite, but before the Preakness, he had done a lot of, he was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 race win streak, just tearing it up at Laurel Park. And I think that this race would probably suit the best for him. I don't see anybody right offhand in that field that can beat him. And they're only running him back 3 weeks later, right after the Preakness. So he must be in good form for him to take a shot here. I'm not sure the odds are going to get on him. Maybe, I hope, even money. Maybe that loss might knock him to 7-5, 8-5. He does pick up Javier Castellano, so I think that's a good thing for him. But if there's a race that Always Mining probably supposed to win, it's got to be this one. And I just don't see anybody else right offhand in the field that could really present any competition. Maybe a Dreammaker can somehow revert back to that fairgrounds race. He could potentially, but I don't see it happening. Still, Dream would have to take a big step forward. Now, H-Gram Motion has been known to sneak in there and pull some upsets before, but I prefer the trainer more on turf than I do on dirt. So we'll move on to the next race. I'm going to say my pick for that one is going to be Always Mining, even though he's the heavy favorite. Let me pull up the past performance for this one. This one, I like Bo Recall's last two races. I think he's in probably tip-top form right now. I still don't know if it's enough to potentially get that win, but I could see Bo Recall getting at least the exacta and the trifecta. Russian Fall, he won the Jenny Wiley, and that was his first start off the layoff. I like Russian Fall a lot last year. Got Stormy. If you're looking for a price horse, I think he could be an interesting choice because he won his optional claiming race at Gulfstream, and then in the Jenny Wiley, he had made a move, but the pace was really slow, and you could tell he was coming off the pace. I'll pull up the highlights of that in just a minute. And so he was probably, I'm going to say, pace compromise. We'll look and confirm that. And then in the distaff, he actually had first by 2.5 lengths at the top of the stretch, and ended up losing it. But that was a very fast-paced race, and he was up and on it. So we'll watch the last two races of Got Stormy. Oops. That's not what I'm looking for. Hang on, I'll pull up the race. You just gotta give me a minute. Where's the replays at on here? Racing. I know. Sorry, this is taking a little bit more work than I thought to pull up this race. Can't pull it up on there either. There we go. Let's see. April 13th, race number 10. Alright, we got it now. And I'm going to go to the end real quick to see if I can figure out what horse number he is. Alright, so he's going to be the 7. Alright. Alright, so he's sitting in 4th place right now. Some of these races like this is the first time I'm getting a chance to see some of these. It's been a big race card and didn't really give you a whole lot of time. Like the race card came out last night for, what is it, 10 stakes races. So I probably made it through 4 or 5 already where I've gotten to look at replays. But some of them like these, I'm trying to get to them, and this is the first time. But we'll watch the race and then see how fast the race comes back on the. We'll pull up the Equibase chart and see how fast the race comes back. But it looks like he's sitting in a good spot. Of course, Russian Fall was the 2 horse. And it's looking like he's trying to make a run. Matter of fact, I would say that run's probably what costed him second, because he flattens out, and that 4 horse just kind of came up like a bottle rocket. Alright, let's go to the Equibase chart for the day for that race. So that's a dirt race, that don't count. Another dirt race. See, 1 mile on the turf, 24:15, 48:98, 113.67, 7 furlongs and 125. I'm just kind of looking at that as a basis to get some kind of outlier of how fast the track might have been playing that day. It's usually tougher with turf races because there's not as many on the card, like especially days where there's like just 2 or 3 races. It's tough to really get a gauge on that. See, they went a lot faster in their mile. 23:60, 47:56, 112.08, finished 136.73. And see, 23:81, 48:41, 113.62. So that was definitely one of the slower turf fractions on the card that day. 136.92, finished up in 142.77. So yeah, I'd say Got Stormy was definitely up against it, as was Rimska. But I'd say if you're looking for a potential price play, then maybe Got Stormy could be the one. I'm sure Mark Cassidy wouldn't have put him there if he didn't think he had a chance. But it's always tough to count out a Chad Brown horse on the turf. We'll move on to the next race. And this one, the Austin Phillips. My pick, I think, is going to be Come Dancing, because I wasn't too impressed with Midnight Bisu's last couple efforts. I know the second to last, she had to come from off the pace, and it was one of the slower paces on the card that day. So I guess I could excuse that effort, but the last one, I don't think the horse has improved that much from 3-year-old to 4-year-old. So I think it's just a matter of time before she gets exposed. And she might have enough to win this race, because I'm not a big fan of Come Dancing in this spot. I think this will be the spot because she's in good form. And I'll get to her race in just a minute. I'll show the replay of that. But you see, ever since she's came back, she's barely won her races, won by 3/4 of a length. Of course, she caught a slow pace there. Then in the Goer Stakes, she beat a late, like I said, it was one of the slowest paces on the card that day. And couldn't do anything. Well, she won, but I wasn't too impressed. I think the late has lost her form, and Shamrock Rose has lost her form. Then the Apple Blossom Escape Clauses in this race, and they had a pretty good little battle down the stretch. I'll play that. And the pace in this race is going to be quicker than the race 2 back. But Escape Clause, I don't really know how good this horse really is. She's beat up on inferior competition, but she's yet to win a race against some of the big players in the older female division. Wonder Gadet is her best years was last year. I think she got retired this week. But like I said, Elate's not the same horse. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets retired sometime soon. And you'll see Midnight Bisu start coming up. She's a 6 horse. And Escape Clause is about to take over by a head here in just a second. There wasn't a whole lot to compare this race to as far as it coming back. There was a older 4-year-old male stakes race on the card that day, but those are not high-class stakes horses. And this field did run faster times than they did. But you'll see that Escape Clause and Midnight Beast are having their own little personal match race down the stretch. It looks like when Midnight Beast gets the lead, that Escape Clause is trying to make a comeback. Maybe if there would have been another 5 or 10 feet, that could have swapped and Escape Clause ran that race, or won the race. But I do think Midnight Bisu had to come a little bit wider on the turns, and maybe she shut off once she got the lead. I don't know. But we'll get to Come Dancing's race. And in this race, she's going to take a bad stumble right out the start of the gate. She's the number 5 horse, and she likes to be forwardly placed. But see, she completely whiffs on the brake. And Frosty Andy's going to be the one that sets the pace. And they were going quick for especially how this track was playing. It was playing kind of slow. It was a real muddy day. And also you had Pacific Wind, who's also racing in this race. This was her first start off a long layoff. So maybe if you're looking for a price play, then Pacific Wind could be the one. She might be able to improve off the second start off the layoff if you're not a fan of any of the probably 3 horses that are going to go off around favoritism. But you'll see Come Dancing is going to take over the lead in just a second. But when she turns for home, she does have to work a little bit more than what I would have liked to see to be able to put this field away. And looking right there, the jockey shouldn't have had to get on her as hard as he did. Maybe Pacific Wind was coming a little more than what he thought that she was. But you'll see that he starts going to the whip and everything. Like, she should already have this field put away. There's no reason to have to get after her like that. So I wasn't too impressed with how she put the field away. So I think going forward throughout the year, she wouldn't be my long-term pick to do anything. But I think she's got a big chance potentially beat Midnight Bisou. And depending on the odds of Pacific Wind, because she last raced in December in the Go for One handicap, and she did finish third to Come Dancing that day. And then that's her first start in like 5-6 months. So if she draws, let's say 5-1 or better odds, then I'm probably going to have a small bet on her, just because I do have to respect Chad Brown. And when you don't like some of the other bigger horses in a race, you got to find other spots to potentially make a play. So she could be one that I think is going to get overlooked. But my most likely choice for a winner is going to be Come Dancing. And we'll move on to the 6th race. And this one, I think if there's a surefire bet of the day, or actually a couple of them, one's going to be World of Trouble, and the other is going to be Bricks and Mortar. And let me pull up the past performance real quick. But World of Trouble has just been tearing it up ever since the Breeders' Cup Sprint, where he finished second to Stormy Liberal. He came back, he destroyed that race at Tampa, the 7 furlong. It was a state-bred stakes race, won it by 13 lengths. This horse can race on dirt, turf. He's just a ball full of speed that can do it all. I think he doesn't necessarily need to be on the lead anymore. Like, if you watch early in his career, he pretty much had to race on the lead to be really effective. Now I think he can sit off horses a little bit and rate, which is something he couldn't do necessarily before. I don't know what Wild Shot's in this race. He was on the Derby Trail as a 3-year-old, but hasn't done anything since. You got Ulm, who is trained by Peter Miller. And I think he's kind of interesting in this spot because he does pick up Rosario for the mount, who's a very good turf jockey. And Peter Miller, there's times where he doesn't always run his horse the fastest at first asking. You see that was his first start since May. And if you go back and look at some of Stormy Liberal's past performances of last year, He didn't start out winning. They kind of built him up slowly. So maybe Ohm could be a potential upset pick or putting the exact at a good prices. I think you'll see a better effort from Ohm than a fifth place finish. And Peter Miller's usually pretty good about spotting his horses. Dirty, trained by Jeremiah Englehart. He won his last race, but that was a complete pace collapse. You can see they went plus 16 and plus 17 above par for pace. And he's had 2 chances against World of Trouble last year and didn't do anything. So I'm not going to pick him here. Gudu, at one time, this was a really good horse on the turf. Back in, was it late 16, early 17, I think it was. But this horse has kind of fell off the map ever since then. So maybe the cutback in distance from a mile to, I think this race is 6 or 6.5 furlongs. 6 furlongs. Maybe the cutback will help this horse out, potentially getting the superfecta, but I don't know. Until he shows a little bit more improvement in his form, I don't think I can go with him. Diamond Oops does pick up Mike Smith, but there's nothing this horse has shown me in the past that says he should win this race. I am a little surprised to see Mike Smith pick up the mount, though. Maybe he's just looking for an extra ride that day. I don't know. And Disco Partner, I'm not going to pick him either. He had his chance in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint and didn't do anything. And the last 2 races haven't really impressed me too much. For a horse that should be vying for second or third choice in the race, I think he should have had better efforts in these last 2. And so World of Trouble is going to be my pick. I'd say he's one of the safer bets of the day. That's who I'm going with. And we'll move on to the next race. And this one is the Acorn Stakes. And I'll pull up a past performance for that. I'd say your most likely choice would be Serengeti Empress. She's kind of had a good race, bad race pattern going on. See, she won the Pocahontas by 19 lengths, then lost the Breeders' Cup Juvenile by 17 lengths, came back, won the Rachel Alexandria by 4.5 lengths, then had a really bad race in the Fairground Oaks. I think she bled in that race. And then in the Kentucky Oaks came back and won that race. She cuts back from a mile and an eighth coming out of that race down to a mile, 1-turn race. So you know she's going to be forwardly placed. And I don't see any horses that I think could potentially upset her. Cookie Dough picks up a new trainer, and Karen McLaughlin. She was trained by Stanley Gould. She had a couple of good wins last year at Gulfstream Park, but I just never had the confidence that when this horse faced the top quality horses that she could do anything. So there is potential, because you never know when a horse switches to a new trainer. But I'm not going to pick her. Same with this one. She hasn't shown me much at all. Fancy Dress Party's interesting because she is undefeated. But I'm not going to pick her either. I wasn't too impressed with how her last race came back on the when I looked at the Equibase charts that day. It was just seemed like a really slow time, and it wasn't a standout time at all to me. So even though she is undefeated, she's going to take a big step forward to be able to be a factor. Same with this one, Proud Emma, trained by Peter Miller. Couldn't go with her. This horse could be interesting. Guarana, trained by Chad Brown. She won her race by 14 lengths. And we'll actually pull up that race. Let's see, April 19th, race number 7. And we'll cut to the start. And to win by 14 lengths in any race has to be impressive, but I don't know. I like to see how she's going to fare jumping up in competition. We'll watch and see how the jockey hits her, or how hard that this horse gets pushed going around the turn into the stretch. But Chad Brown is always good about spotting his horses to not be embarrassed, so she must have some ability for her to be nominated at this race. Yeah, she's got this field long put away. I think I'm going to take a stand against Guarana and go with Serengeti Empress, just because to me this horse has the proven class. Should still be in great form and does cut back from the 1 1/8 down to the 1-turn mile, which I think will benefit her a lot. I might would consider putting Guarana in the exacta. I don't know. Between now and Saturday, I have to figure out who I want to put with her in the exactas and trifectas this Saturday. And I actually plan on trying to do a live stream this Saturday. It's not going to be done from the computer. I'm going to go to the Ebro Greyhound Park, but they have the TVs with the races on it and the tote machines you can go bet at. So I'll be there, but I'll try to see if I can do the live stream from YouTube on my phone sometime before the Belmont, and I'll talk about if anything's changed with my picks between now and then, which most of them won't. I'm pretty solid right now on who I'm going with. But I'll pick Serengeti Empress as my pick to win the Acorn and move on to the 8th race. And let me pull up past performance for this one real quick. You'll never get a good price on Guarana again. You do got a point there. If she wins now, it's your chance to get a decent payoff for not a 1-9. I wouldn't be surprised if the top 2 horses pay somewhat decent in the exacta. Maybe you could get 7, 8 to 1. But I definitely think the winner of the race is going to be one of them two. And this one, I'll go ahead and start with who I think the trap horse is going to be. Complexity is in this race, and if you follow him as a 2-year-old, he was very good as a juvenile. Won his maiden by 4 1/4 lengths and won the Champagne over Code of Honor by 3 lengths. But Code of Honor did have that bad stumble at the start. And then in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, can't remember if he went off his favorite. I think it was, if it wasn't favorite, it was like second choice. but his pedigree doesn't scream distance at all. It's more of a sprinter miler type pedigree. So going a mile and 16th was already kind of pushing the limits of for this horse's distance. And they haven't raced him since then. But I remember last year with if you remember Mask, he had raced a couple of times for Chad Brown, was really good, then went off the shelf for a little while, came back in the Pat Day Mile, and he got bet down a lot, but done absolutely no running in the race. So I think Complexity is going to be the track horse. Is going to take a lot of money and is not going to do anything. But the horse that I am thinking is going to do something is Honest Mischief, because he looked really impressive last time whenever he broke his maiden at Keeneland. This will only be his third lifetime start. And there's a lot of horses I don't like in this race. Much better trained by Bob Baffert. He'll take some money just because of the Bob Baffert name and Mike Smith name attached to him. But look at some of this horse's big races. He hasn't done anything. He lost to Mind Control in the Goer Stakes. Was basically 1-2 favorite in the Gold Fever and got embarrassed. In the Gotham, he got caught in that big pace duel, which I don't know why he went so fast at the beginning, because there was nobody really pressing him. That horse just took off when there was no reason to do that. So I'm not going to go with much better. I think Barach is going to have to take a good step up in class to be able to be effective. Complexity, I just said I think he's a trap horse. Landeskog, I think he's going to have another forward move to be effective. Nitrous, I'm not going to go with him. But my pick is going to be Mind Control. I've heard some good things about this horse from this connection, saying that they think he's really grown up and became a really good horse. And he's done nothing wrong in his last couple of starts to prove me wrong. I won the Jerome over our Brain Trust, who's then in the Gotham, he got caught in that fast pace duel. He actually took over first for a brief second and then got passed by High Call. That was just a complete pace meltdown race. And then in the Bayshore, he beat much better in that race. And they actually ran on the card that day. The Bayshore was ran at roughly the same time as the race with World of Trouble, the Carter. I'll pull that up real quick. The trackless thing's being a little bit slow, but it'll get pulled up in a second. See, here's the Carter World of Trouble. Finished in 1:23.16. And here it is, Mind Control, 1:23.36. So there wasn't that much of a time difference between them two races. Now, Much Better did set a faster pace in this race than what got set in the Carter. That was a really slow pace race for a 7-furlong sprint. They went 23.49, 46.72. Whereas they opened up in 22.22, 45.04. But I still think Mind Control is probably the best 3-year-old in this race right now. He's done nothing to show me any different. But none of these other ones I can take. So I would say Mind Control is going to be my pick, I'm probably doing exactly with Honest Mischief and Mind Control. And we'll move on to the next race, which I think is the Met Mile. And this field is just loaded this year. I think if this is the main event of the day right here, even though it's not going to be carded as it. But you got McKenzie, who's very good. Matoli's very good. Forense Fire's doing very good. Promises Fulfilled was a good 3-year-old last year. Cold Front has been doing really good. Prince Lucky was doing good till he had that hiccup in his last stakes race. And I'll pull up the past performance for that. And I think McKenzie, I'll start with him because I do think McKenzie has improved since his race with a Battle of Midway and Gift Box. I thought those were at distances that he probably doesn't want to go at, which is kind of odd to say because his bloodline does show that he has a lot of distance in his pedigree. But just watching him throughout his time from the 3 to 4-year-old, it always seems like he wants to go shorter distances. And in the Ali Sheba, that was a very slow-paced race. And we'll get into that one real quick. But even though Gift Box came back and lost to Veneroso, I'm not going to hold. I think whereas Gift Box kind of reached his peak, I think McKenzie is still improving. All right, so it won't let me pull it up. But Matoli, I think this horse raced he last raced at Pimlico in May of 2018, then took almost a whole year off, came back, and has been really good in his 3 races. But I don't know how much more of a forward move this horse has. So I'm going to try to beat him. Thunderstow, I think this horse needs more distance. I don't think a mile is going to be his best distance. I think he needs a 1.125, mile and a quarter. I liked Always Mining in the Preakness. Yeah, I picked Always Mining in the Preakness too, trying to beat the Derby horses out of there, and that one backfired really bad. Tell was Silence, I couldn't go with him. Promises Fulfilled. This is going to be my long shot pick for the Met Mile because he was very good as a 3-year-old last year, especially at shorter distances. He even beat Whitmore last year, Limousine Liberal, in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I think he had a little slower start out of the gate than what he would have liked, and I think that ended up costing him maybe 2nd or 3rd. Roy Yates was just much the best for sprint horses that year. And then he came back and ran in Dubai as his first race back, which I thought was odd to send a horse to Dubai without any kind of a prep at all. But he still got 4th, only beat by 3 1/4 lengths. So given that he didn't have a prep and that was his first race in a long time, I think that was kind of impressive. Then the Churchill Down Stakes. That was his first race back from Dubai. And he didn't get embarrassed. He only lost by 4 lengths. So I think this horse does have a forward move somewhere in him. And Del Romas has said that he thinks thinks a mile is Promises Fulfilled's best distance. Actually, he said that he was thinking about running him in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year, but decided against it to go for the sprint because of how he looked in the last couple races before. And Romans can be a sneaky trainer and steal some wins with horses that don't like they're coming off good efforts. Firenze Fire, he looked really good in the Run Happy Stakes at Belmont. His first race off the layoff at Tampa. He didn't do much run at all in that, but service doesn't really. He likes to have his horses reach for a goal. He's not going to have them fully cranked at first asking. So I do expect a good effort from Firenze Fire. And he is undefeated at Belmont. Started 3 times, 3 firsts. He won the Dwyer there last year by 9 lengths. So very impressive. Then I can't remember the race. He beat Good Magic as a 2-year-old in the race at Belmont. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. So I do think this horse likes Belmont, and he's in very good form right now. Pavel, this is a horse that is. I bet him so many times as a 3-year-old thinking that he was going to be ready to turn that corner. And I remember betting him in the Jim Dandy, and he didn't do anything. And I still kept taking chances with him. And then ironically, the one time I didn't go with him, he sneaks up and wins the Stephen Foster handicap. But he hasn't done anything else since. So I don't think he's going to win this race at a mile. But Prince Lucky. I think this horse is going to have a little bit better of a showing than what most people are going to give him credit for. The Westchester, he just didn't fire for whatever reason, caught a sloppy track. But he beat some pretty good horses in the House Oak, Coppertown, Quit. So I'm gonna chalk this effort up to sloppy track. Because if you look back at the last time he caught a sloppy track, he finished 3rd by 11 lengths. So I don't think he's going to win, but I think you got to respect him to get 4th. But I'll say I'm going to go with an exactor for this because I don't think the value is going to be on the win bet so much. But I think I'm going to do a McKenzie and Firenze Fire is my main exacta. And then I'm going to do some with Promises Fulfilled as my long shot pick in there. So that's my choices for the Met Mile. And move on to the Manhattan Stakes. And how I'm gonna tie this race in with the Belmont because I'm gonna bet the daily double. Hang on one second. Because in the Belmont, if you look at all the most likely winners, there's not going to be no odds. You're going to get 9 to 5, maybe on Tacitus, if not a little less than that. Maybe 2 to 1 on War Will. If you like anybody else, you should see decent odds. Fletcher's going to be bet down a little more than probably what his horse it should be just because of the odds. So to try to help get some of that value back, I'm going to do a daily double with Bricks and Mortar because I don't see any horse beating Bricks and Mortar in this race at all. I think he's in tip-top form right now. I do wonder how long he can hold that form because if you watch his last couple races, they've been really hard efforts. He's caught paces that haven't really, I think, suited him the best. And you got to figure out running the Pegasus World Cup turf. That had to take a little something out of him. And he did have a layoff, but he had to really do some running these last 2 races. So I don't think through the whole season he can keep it up at this level, but I do think he has another really good effort out of him. So he's going to be my, instead of doing just win bets for the Belmont, my win bet's going to factor around my daily double, because I think instead of getting 2 to 1, you can get 5 or 6 to 1, depending on who you like, maybe a little bit more. You do got Raging Bull in this race, who I like this horse as a 3-year-old, but he hasn't showed me much going from 3 to 4. I think he's got to take another step forward to win. Robert Bruce, I think this horse likes distance, but he needs a little bit weaker competition. Corban, this horse always seems to show up, and he got edged out by Bricks and Mortar last time in the Turf Classic at Churchill. But I don't think he's going to do anything at this distance. I think he likes a mile as his preferred distance to run at. Definitely not a 1.25 miles. Channel Cat, I couldn't really go with him. And Channel Maker, he was actually my pick to win the Man of War, and I was surprised that people let him go off at near about 7 to 1, because the favorite in there, I can't remember his name, he was trained by Michael Maker. That was a horse that had been claimed for $100,000, I think it was. And then he was starting to get out of his form cycle a little bit. He had won a couple of races for him, but you could tell that he was starting to decline. But he went off his favoritism. And I knew Arklow had a chance to be sneaky, and he did fire a good effort like I thought. He was the one horse I was worried about. But seeing how Channel Maker ran as a 4-year-old and then to come back, I just don't know how this horse went off as high of odds as he did, because he caught a really weak field in that Man of War. But Bricks and Mortar, my best bet of the day, I guess I'll say, is going to be Bricks and Mortar in this race. And then we'll move on to the Belmont. And if you watch my pace analysis video, I think 2 horses are going to determine how this race is going to go. It's going to be Joeva and Spinoff, because Joeva's showed that he likes the front, and I don't see no reason to change his tactics, especially in a big race. Don't change what makes your horse successful. So I can just about guarantee he's going to go to the front, especially drawing the rail. And Spinoff, if you watched his Tampa race, he was pretty much right up and on the pace. He wasn't first, but he really pressed that pace hard, and that was when he ran his best. So I expect him to run more similar to that running style than the Louisiana Derby, Kentucky Derby running style. So if he does that, then I can see a chance that the pace gets really hot and can set up for some of these, like Tacitus, and I think War Will can adapt to the pace really good. He doesn't need to be up on it pressed. He's going to be forwardly placed, but I've never seen him actually really get after and truly press the pace. So I think he's, either way, whether it heats up in front of him, he can sit off and let the speed come back to him and potentially draw off and win, or if the pace is modest, he can, at the far turn, start making his run. But I think if War Will loses this race, it's not going to be because of pace. It's going to be because of the running. All these races finally taking its toll on him. And he really, if you think about the Louisiana Derby, I guess you could say he caught a break, because he didn't do anything in that race. He had that little stumble at the start, and they didn't push him hard enough, I think, to consider that might as well have been a morning workout. So if you scratch that race, this would be May, only his basically third start off a 2-month layoff, so he should still be in good form, I would think. And then Chasters, if the pace heats up, of course, he showed that he can win. And I've decided that my long shot pick in this race is going to be Intrepid Heart, and I think he's going to get second, only because he's got 2014 Commissioner got second in the Belmont, and he had the same summer ran the Peter Pan as a stepping stone to the Belmont, just like Intrepid Heart had the Peter Pan to Belmont going for him. Commissioner and Intrepid Heart both share the same dam, and Commissioner got second. So I just see a lot of similarities there, almost like history repeating itself. And Tappets are really good in the Belmont. So I just think I'm going to personally bet this horse to get second, just because I don't want to see history repeat itself when I'm sitting here talking about it and it happens. And I think you're going to see a decent paying exacta, because Intrepid Heart's going to get overlooked a lot. Probably bet off at, I'd say, somewhere in the 7 to 10 range. Spin off in the superfecta. He could, and I've debated about this horse just because Pletcher does have a really good Kentucky Derby to Belmont angle. That's been his primary way of getting horses to run there, because he done it with Palace Malice. He done it with Tapper in 2016. Destin, I thought was going to get first. He got nipped at the wire. That race costed me like $500, because I had I think it was like an $80 win bet on Destin, plus a couple of exactas. And I had a show bet on Lonnie, and luckily that show bet was what saved me that day. But Pletcher is really good going from the Kentucky Derby to the Belmont. But I just get the feeling this year is going to be a spinoff's going to be the main horse that gets bet, and it's going to be Intrepid Hearts is going to be the Pletcher horse this year. I'm not going to let history repeat itself again and me not bet it. So I would say my Belmont pick is going to be probably War Will over Intrepid Heart would be, or War Will over Tacitus and War Will over Intrepid Heart would be my two exactas that I do. I think War Will is going to be the first horse since 2005 to pull off the Preakness Belmont winners without winning the Kentucky Derby. And if you look at, especially on the dam side of War Will's pedigree, they run all day. Like they run like 1 3/4 races, 1.5 miles. So he's definitely got distance in his pedigree to be able to win. And if Mark Cassie's going to do one of two things with this horse. Either he's going to scratch him a day or two before the Belmont because his horse is not up to his standards, or he's going to run in the Belmont and do really well, because Mark Cassie's not going to put his horse in the Triple Crown race to get embarrassed. He's already shown that in the past before. So that's what I think is going to happen with him. But that's pretty much my picks for the Belmont Stakes Day. You do got another stakes race in race 13. I'm not going to bet that race after the Belmont. I'm going to leave and go home for the day. It's already going to be a long enough day at the track betting, 11 races on the card anyways. But I would say Marconi's in very good form right now, and 1.5 miles screams up his alley. And of course there's that Tappet thing again. And I think Rocketry is going to be overbet more than what he should be. He hasn't done anything since last year. And I think Marconi's the better of the two horses. I don't think Gerda Blame's going to do anything in the race. In Realm, he showed up a couple of times and stole some races at good odds, but I don't think it's going to be this one. Sonneteer, I don't think he's got the right running style for this race. So I would say Marconi is going to be the most likely winner. Sadler does bring a horse over for this race, so maybe he'd be an interesting choice to look at. But I would say Marconi is going to be my top pick for the race. But that's pretty much it for the Belmont. That's all my picks. The Master Fencer did work out again today, so I do want to. I'll pull up that workout. I haven't got a chance to see it yet, but since I'm on streaming live, we'll go ahead and check it out. Maybe he'll do better than that last one, where he had that complete stumble in the stretch. And after this, I want to show Tacitus's workouts because he was his last two workouts I think have been really good. And I'm going to show his workouts before the Tampa Bay Derby where he was just getting killed by hidden scroll in there about every workout. And let me speed this up. So I guess they worked him from the gate. There we go. Or not. It looked like for a second they worked it from the gate because I seen the gate there. I'd like to see the jockey not hit him this time or anything. It looked like last time they was trying to work him out like he was in the stretch run of a real race. But it does look like he's getting over the track a little bit better today. I think Master Fencer is going to be a little bit overbet more than probably what he should be, because Lonnie got third in the Belmont in 2016, and then even though Gronkowski's not a Japanese horse, he got second last year. So some of these foreign horses are starting to sneak up in the money. But yeah, this workout right here just looks a lot better than the last one. Looks like he's getting over the track a little bit better. The jockey's not hitting him or doing anything as much. But it's still not going to really change, I guess, my opinion of Master Fencer for the Belmont. But if you are a Master Fencer fan, that has to be encouraging to see that he worked out better that time. And I'll have to go way down, but I'll find the earlier Tacitus workouts. Alright, here we go. This was one of the workouts before the Tampa Bay Derby with Tacitus. And what was happening here was happening near about every workout. Tacitus just cannot keep up with Hidden Scroll, which I don't know why Hidden Scroll has such trouble translating his morning time success into racing success since he broke his maiden. I wish it wasn't so foggy on this one. Here we go. You'll be able to see him now, but you'll see that Tacitus has trouble keeping up with Hidden Scroll. Like the jockey's not even doing anything on Hidden Scroll, and Tacitus is struggling to keep up. And that was every single workout. That was. It made me bet Hidden Scroll in the Fountain of Youth, and made me bet against Tacitus in the Tampa Derby. But we'll look at his, especially his last workout. And in just a second, he's going to catch up to his workmate. You're welcome. I'm going to try to do this once a week. Or I'll say once a week for sure. I'll work on trying to make it maybe an everyday thing for a couple hours, especially on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when the major tracks are open. But we'll see. I don't want to overload myself too much, so I'll say once a week for sure. And then if everything goes good, we'll start trying to do it every day. But anyways, back to the workout. You'll just see how much better Tacitus looks in this workout. He's going to get on even terms with his workmate and actually win the workout, which Tacitus has rarely done in the past. So I think the horse has maybe matured a lot. But seeing how he worked out compared to now, that was just a very encouraging sign to me. So if you're a Tacitus fan, you got to take that as a positive. And of course, War Will didn't have a workout at all between the Preakness and the Belmont. Cassie said he was just going to take him out for gallops. I'll see if maybe they have a video of one of his gallops. But I'm not too concerned with that, just because if you think about a horse coming out of a race, they already go 2 weeks after. Usually the horse will run the race, then 2 weeks later they'll have their workout. So it's only one extra week. So I'm not too concerned about that at all. We'll speed it up to where he actually starts galloping. But I don't think you're going to get much out of seeing the gallop, because they're not going to be trying to drain this horse's tank at all in the workout. It's just more of a maintenance type gallop than anything, just to make sure he's in good form for the Belmont. But he seems to look like he's getting over the track pretty good to me. I don't think you're going to see the jockey really get after him. You might shake him up towards the end of the workout, but that's about it. Right there almost looked like maybe that was like an unofficial workout. Like that was he galloped, but then he kind of sped up right there for just a little bit. So maybe it was a unofficial workout for just a couple of furlongs. But like I said before, either War will run in the Belmont and do well, or Cassie will scratch him either tomorrow or Friday before the Belmont. One of those two things I think would be what happens, because Mark Cassidy will not run War Will in the Belmont to get embarrassed. Is there anybody else's workouts y'all want to see? We'll look at the Tax workout, because there was a lot of talk about Tax in his last workout that they wasn't too impressed with it. And if you're a Tax fan, that's got to be discouraging, because you want to hear that your horse is working good going into a race. And you don't hear too many trainers come out and say that their horse has been working out bad. They usually all have some between the lines comment of they find another way to say the horse is not how they wanted them to be. But no trainer in their right mind is going to come out and say my horse sucks going into this race. They're gonna make up something. But for them to just come out and say that he's not training how he wants him to, that has to be very discouraging. But it looks like Tax is maybe struggling to put away his workmate just a little bit. And we'll find an earlier workout to maybe compare it to. I watched one a couple of days ago, and it looked like he had a lot easier time putting away his workmate than what was showed there. Alright, this was the workout. Or never mind. That's a different horse. Alright, this was on April 25th. So this should be a good workout to get a comparison to. And just right off the bat, it looks like he's getting over the track so much better than the previous workout. Actually, I think this is the one that I watched. But in the stretch, he's gonna put away his workmate in about the same distance, but I think he does it in a lot more professional way. Like, he makes it look more effortless. So maybe the Triple Crown season starting to take its toll on Tax. But yeah, you see how much better that workout was in the first one. So if you're a Tax fan, keep that in mind. Personally, I'm not. So for me, that workout just, I guess, helps me validate my opinion that Tax won't win the Belmont. But I'm about to sign off here. I want to thank everyone that tuned in and watched. It means a lot to me for everybody that subscribed and everything. I plan on, like I said just a few minutes ago, doing this at least once a week, if not more than that. I I do got a newborn right now, so trying to set up something every day, I don't want to overload myself. So we'll shoot for once a week, probably on a Saturday morning, the day before a lot of the big races, and then we'll go from there. But I think the horse racing community needs something where fans can just come in and interact and hang out. There's not really a whole lot of that. You have different websites like DRF that they give out information, but it's not really a place you go and I guess can really connect. You just buy past performance and go bet the race. Uh, long shot pick for the Belmont. Um, I would say Intrepid Heart would be my long shot pick, but I think I'm going to pick him in second. I see a chance of history repeating itself because Commissioner got second in 2014. Was trained by Todd Pletcher. Intrepid Heart has the same bloodline as or the same bloodline from the dam side as Commissioner. So I just see a lot of potential of history repeating itself. Commissioner had the same Peter Pan to Belmont track, and it's the same one for Intrepid Heart, the Peter Pan to Belmont. And how many times have you seen a race before and a horse won, and you're like, man, he done the same thing. The same pattern happened like 3 years ago. It happens all the time. So I'm not going to be caught having that happen to me. If he doesn't come in, it's a long shot pick for a reason. Because it is a long shot pick to win. Nobody picks long shots 100% of the time. If they do, I promise you they're lying to you. But if you can hit a couple of long shots over the period of time, you can make some good money doing it. But if I had to pick one, I would say Intrepid Heart. But like I said, I'm going to pick him to come in second. But I'm going to sign off now, and thank y'all for watching, and I'll be back on soon.